Hi guys, Doug St. Denis with Ridge to River Outdoors. I'm here with Mike Jamboretz at the Malia Kai, and we're talking about winter blackmouth. Mike recently did a seminar at the Snow King PSA meeting, and he talked specifically about winter blackmouth fishing in the Puget Sound. Mike, out of all of the seminar information that you provided, what do you think the people need to go away with that's the most important?
Learning where that tide pushes the bait, where that bait gets pushed around constantly by the tide, and use that information. You can use it to any structure anywhere in the sound.
That's some great information, guys. You know, Mike talks specifically in the seminar about Area 9. These techniques he talks about can be used in any area in the Puget Sound for winter blackmouth fishing. And he's got a lot of interesting techniques and tips to help you be successful winter blackmouth fishing. So stick around and enjoy.
Anyways, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to show tonight is like which side of the bar you might want to be on and what tide. I have my reasons. We'll talk about why. Anyway, blackmouth rule is pretty basic stuff here. But when I say fish structure, I'm not talking about a column or a pinnacle. I'm talking about mostly a landmass. When you look at marine charts, especially at Possession and Skagit Head, you'll notice that the head and Skagit, Possession Point and Skagit Head, that same landmass is mimicked underwater. Okay, when the current is flowing in and out, that landmass that's mimicked underwater is what you're fishing. Okay, so you're not really fishing pinnacles like it might sound when I say fish structure. Okay, drag the bottom mostly. Blackmouth are looking for candlefish primarily, sometimes herring, but they'll actually get down in the gravel and root around. Sometimes you'll catch a fish and you can see that his gill rakers are kind of messed up. You can tell he's been in the gravel. So if you're not fishing deep, you're just not fishing blackmouth. Blackmouth, you couldn't get away with this in the San Juan Islands where it's rocky, but in Puget Sound you can pretty much just let the ball drop, and when it hits the bottom, then crank it up 5 or just a couple, just enough to keep it from dragging the bottom. Find the bait, stay with the bait, okay? Blackmouth are definitely biting on tides, okay? They go off, they go on. Just like even right now, everybody has seen the coho in Puget Sound, that you can be out there for like 6 hours and you're just trolling and trolling and trolling. You're wondering why you're not catching fish. All of a sudden there's a bite that goes on. It's a 20-minute bite. It's the same way with blackmouth. They're definitely tide biters, okay? So when you find bait, that's the place to be. Don't leave it. Don't leave the bait. Just stay there and keep pounding it. Quick question?
When you have bait that seems to be moving.
So we're talking about bait, and the question was, when you see bait and you went through it, now you want to turn around and try to get back to it, how do you do it? You got to be really, really lucky. Okay, I'm telling you, it's amazing because it does move. But if you're fishing the structure that holds bait, it'll be there, and that's what you do with blackmouth. Okay. I can answer you that, but other than that, it's really hard to find bait. Out in the ocean, we'll go over something really big, man, you mark it and you pay attention to your track line on the chart plotter, and come back and it's moved. You're right, it's gone. So, but in Puget Sound, that's kind of the beauty of the structure, is a lot of times the bait just stays right there and the tide holds it there, okay? The tide's gonna hold that bait there. Okay, I say match the hatch. That's just, one of the best things you can do is the very first fish that you catch, cut its stomach and see what he's eating, okay? If he's eating big bait, that's going to tell you what size lures to fish, lures or bait. If it's candlefish, when you get good with your electronics, you can actually tell the difference between candlefish and herring too. I don't have any pictures of my chart plotter because every time I take a picture, I see a reflection of myself taking a picture of my chart plotter, so it just doesn't work, but anyway. Some guys already know what I'm talking about. Try to fish the tide changes, okay? If you're going to go fishing, you're going to set your alarm clock for 5 and it doesn't get light out till 6:30, you're going to be out there anyway, and if the tide's not till 8 o'clock, you're still going to be fishing, so just be out there, but be aware of the fact that the tide don't quit before the tide, okay? And don't be all tangled up 10 minutes before the tide changes either. So, okay, in this slide we're showing the difference between candlefish and standard hoochies. And in the bottom of the picture there, you can see these guys right here. Those are your candlefish, and there's the same version in the hoochie. It's the same thing, except, so that's exactly the same color pattern, but it's the narrow profile that it mimics the candlefish. And I would go with that before I'd go with that for Blackmouth. The candlefish Hoochies are really, really, they work well.
What about skirts? Skirts?
Skirts? I wouldn't do it. Keep a narrow profile. The question was, should you add a skirt? Definitely not to that. You want to keep the narrowest profile you can have. Okay. But there's, the 142 Hoochie that does so well everywhere in any fishery. Fish the same version, color version of that, the 142, but do it in the candlefish version. It has glow in the dark. It's going to light up. Glow in the dark's a really good thing for blackmouth fishing. And the thing on the top is nothing new, but that's good leader storage. That Hoochie right there, candlefish, there's a couple of those that I threw into the raffle. They work, okay? Coho killers, why do they work for blackmouth? They actually work better for Chinook and blackmouth than they do cohos, by far. They do, and it's the same thing. You have the narrow profile of the bait, the size baits that they're eating. Okay. Okay, spoons. I'm just going to throw those are the names of these particular spoons. All those spoons up there, you guys have fished the cookies and cream for everything, and the cookies and cream is going to have the UV on the A side. The B side, instead of being just silver paint, it's painted with glow. Okay, so you got the best of both worlds. You're going to get the UV light picked up by the A side, which is showing right here. The B side's got the glow in the dark. Best of both worlds. All these are really good picks for blackmouth. One time during the San Juan Derby, that was it right there. That caught the biggest fish. Okay, the funky chicken, that's a Lure Jensen spoon. That thing, I don't know why it works so well, that color combination, but it works for big kings and it also works for blackmouth. So, if you're grasping for straws, try some of this stuff.
Excuse me, what size are those spoons?
Smaller spoons. Well, again, the question is, what size spoons would you pick? So I can go back. Okay, these are all 3.5-inch spoons. Okay, that's the middle of the road. Okay, they make 3-inch, they make a 4-inch. Okay, they also, some of these, like the yellowtail silver horde, makes a 5-inch, which is just dynamite for the ocean, but it's not the best pick for Puget Sound. Puget Sound, the bait is smaller. The blackmouth are eating smaller bait. Once again, go back to the first fish that you caught. What size bait was he using? That'll tell you what size spoon to use. Okay. Okay, there you go right there. Okay. So if you're matching the size bait that the fish are eating, there's a 4, a 3. This gives me a 4, a 3.5, and a 3. If they're eating needlefish, that'll work right there. Okay. If they're eating herring, probably the big guy. Okay. Those are all UV. That's a really good spoon. One of the things that you'll notice, and that you can't really see on these slides, is the hook. A lot of these spoons are coming out with that Matsu style hook that has that extra bend in it. Those are pretty good hooks to start with. When they first came out, they were brittle, they were breaking. I didn't like them at all. I don't like how fat the shank is because they don't penetrate as well. The worst thing about them, go ahead and fish them if they come with a spoon, because they actually come out pretty darn sharp right from the get-go, right out of the box. They're sharp enough to fish. When you start filing that tip, if you put them in salt water for the day, that tip's going to burn off by the end of the day. At that time, it's time to change and put probably a 95-10 Mustad on there, which is a stainless hook. Okay, another version of the same spoons. These are all the Kingfisher Lite spoons. These are in 3.5, but here's something new. Well, it's not really new. It's a couple years old now, but putting that little 1.5-inch Hoochie on the back makes that thing swim totally different. Okay, instead of the fluttering spoon, now it's a wounded bait, and it goes like that. It swims just like a fish. Okay, it's just producing enough drag on the back of that spoon that it makes it work. Do the colors have to match the deal? Not necessarily, probably. You could probably take and just put a glow one on there. When I made these ones, I found some Hoochies that looked like the spoon, so it was just the way I did it. You probably have to build these yourself. They're kind of hard to find, but I know that Silver Horde does make some of them, but here's how you'd build them yourself, okay?
What size hook?
Using a 3/0 on a, the question is what size hook? I'm using a 3/0 hook. That's right there. It's a 9510. Here, we'll just put it up there. There you go. 3/0 or 4/0, okay? There's your size hook. Yeah, okay. That is a Mustad 9510 stainless. So here's an example. That spoon came with that Matsu style hook on it. You see how fat that shank is? It's pretty crazy. And the problem with that is when you file a hook, you want the longest, skinniest penetration point that you can have. Once you file it, that point gets shorter and shorter. Now your penetration is getting fatter and fatter. Okay. By the end of the first day that you've sharpened those, it's a good idea to go ahead and cut that off and rig them this way. Even if you don't put the, they come with a welded ring on the back of the spoon. So you just take a pair of dikes and cut the welded ring, throw the hook away because the tips burn on it. It's wasted now anyway. And put, that's a number 6. This is what I use. But a number 4 is the next size down. And just an 80 or a 100-pound swivel. And you're not using the 80 or 100-pound for the strength. You don't need a swivel that strong, but the size works. So that's why I picked the 80 or 100-pound. The side-wash hook is going to have an open eye on it. Go ahead and crimp it right down on the barrel swivel and just put that together. Now the thing to keep in mind, when you take a pair of scissors, you got to cut the nose off of that hoochie. And you can see in this picture I made 2 cuts. The first one I didn't get a big enough hole. The second one I cut it one more time. You got to be very, very careful when you cut the top of that hoochie that you don't get it too big because you're going to slide it just over that right there. You don't want it to slip over the barrel. And if you cut it too big, it's going to slide all the way down to the hook and it's just not going to work right. But good way to go right there.
Nice.
Yeah, they work. That's a different, that spatterback spoon right there is not in the slide that I showed you of the Blackmouth spoons, but that's another good one. They make some of these that have glow-in-the-dark on the back of them too. Glow-in-the-dark is really important because you're fishing deep. You're fishing on the bottom for Blackmouth. Okay, there's one of the, that was 2 years ago. And it was just before that spoon was released with the hoochie on it. Now that fish, you can see the big rudder on the back of it, so it got released. You do have to release the wild fish.
Okay, guys, so that's a lot of information in part 1. Make sure you move on to part 2 for some more great information with Mike Jamboretz of Jambo's Sport Fishing. Make sure you give Mike a call and visit his website at jambosportfishing.com.